X is one hell of a movie, to be honest. Like, everything from the premise to the reveals is just very unusual in the best possible way, I'd say. But I think one of the most charming things is that it emulates old school slasher movies, and it does it really well, in my opinion. The camera angles used and just the camera work in general is very much in line with old horror movies. And the transitions are also very interesting, especially like the flickering from one scene to the next to establish, like, obviously juxtaposition. You know, it happens 3 or 4 times throughout the movie. It's obviously jarring when it happens, because I mean, I think it's supposed to be jarring. It's supposed to bring to your attention that the 2 scenes that are being linked together by this very obvious transition, you know, the scenes are connected. There's also the transition, like the Star Wars style transition, where it's just like a pan over to the next scene. I think that's cool too. It's a lot of shit like that that just kind of brings you back to old slasher movies. Also, this movie has a lot of like underlying themes, and yet it really doesn't hold your hand or anything. It just kind of tells you its story, assuming that you'll just pick up on all of it. And to be fair, it's not like this is the most deep movie ever, but it's nice to have a horror movie that actually makes you think a little instead of just like telling you everything or just kind of being bare bones like your typical horror demon ghost story, whatever. I went into this movie somehow not knowing anything about it, and it didn't take me a while to figure out what was going on, but it's like at first I genuinely didn't know what was going on. And it's not like the movie just tells you, like, for example, the protagonists aren't like, okay, we are this, we do this. Like, it's not like that. The story follows a crew of 6 people who rented a little house next to a barn to shoot a porno, but the owner isn't aware of why they reserved the place, or at least it seems like he isn't aware at first. I would think that he did know, but whatever. And he just doesn't trust them off the bat. Being stupid, the crew brushes off the fact that the owner literally has a red flag sticking out of his ass and proceeds to shoot their porno. And that's when shit starts to get weird, like supremely weird. I won't go into too much detail, but this movie does a very good job at establishing like the parallels between its protagonists and its antagonists. And obviously, yes, there's good and bad guys, but low-key it feels like it really isn't set in stone. A lot of good guys, quote unquote, do despicable shit, and some of the antagonists just kind of seem sad to look at the beginning. And for a second, you're kind of wondering who's really in the wrong here. These young people come here, they start fucking with these old people, or they're not really fucking with them, but they start doing shit that they're not really supposed to do, that the old people don't really seem comfortable with doing, and you kind of get that based on context clues from the movie, which I won't spoil obviously, but there's context clues showing that like these old people wouldn't really be cool with whatever the fuck they're doing in the little outhouse that's far away from the barn. But these young people are like, you know, fuck it, bro. We're gonna do what we're gonna do, whatever. And it's like, you kind of feel bad for these old people. Until it becomes like extremely clear who the antagonists are. And then at the end, it's kind of weird again. I don't know. I like the constant shift. I'm saying it was weird at the end. It wasn't like, oh my god, the good guys were the bad guys all along. It wasn't like that. But there is a very interesting parallel between the main character and the main antagonist. I'd say the main antagonist. I said there's one of the 2 antagonists that's clearly the main one, but I would say the juxtaposition between Maxine and the grandma is very interesting, and if anything, it's kind of, well, I'm not gonna say anything. However, I gotta say the main characters are actually a little ridiculous. Like, I kind of mentioned it already, but they really should have left as soon as they got there, because shit was already weird the second they stepped foot in that area. Like, the first encounter was already strange. If I was them, I would have packed my shit, left. You could go to any other barn. I know the main dude was kind of like, nah, we gotta get this done right now, whatever. Anyways, y'all are literally fucking dumb. But then again, it kind of falls in line with 70s horror movies. If anything, it falls in line with now horror movies. People are dumb in horror movies. That's the point. If people were dumb in horror movies, there would be no horror movies. Most of the events could have been avoided if they simply, like, I don't know, actually tried to get away. Like, there was a million chances for all of them to actually just run away. Fuck these old people. Well, maybe not literally for the grandma, because she'll probably enjoy it. But you get what I'm saying. They could have left so many times, so many opportunities. I wouldn't have included them taking unnecessary risks or anything like that, but they didn't. And to be fair, at this point, I'm just nitpicking because I actually really enjoyed the movie. And while it's hard for me to believe that the antagonists couldn't have been easily overpowered if the protagonists, you know, actually decided to use their brains, I still had a good time. It's a really cool homage to older movies, while also being like a breath of fresh air amongst all the other modern horror movies that just kind of blend in together, kind of keep doing the same shit. the same themes, you know, demons, this, that. It's cool. It's cool to see a movie that actually does something different. You do have your jump scares here and there, but I feel like the crux of like the tension of this movie it's not the jump scares. It's the tension that you don't know what's going to happen, and it's also the tension that like the antagonists are not typical antagonists. You wouldn't expect the antagonist to actually do anything or to be able to do anything. So it's kind of interesting to see how they go about it and how they are able to kind of make these characters that objectively are not that threatening actually threatening. I would give X a grade of 8 Kid Cudi dicks out of 10. I think this is a good start to what seems to be the X-verse at this point. Like, I don't know what the director is on, but at this point we might be in phase 3 by 2024.